Well, Dan and Shell, we are seeing all sorts of debris across neighborhoods right now in Selma. We're on the east side of Selma, where the fire department says was hit the hardest by these storms. We've got all sorts of damage, paneling from roofs just coming off, trees down all over the place, power lines damage all across these streets here. Right now, I want to talk with the fire chief, Randy Reed. Thank you for your time. We really appreciate it. Obviously, we were hearing about these down power lines. We also know there was a gas leak, but this is stuff that you guys were starting to take care of pretty quickly. Can you walk us through what you've been through so far?
So when the tornado warning came out, we walked outside and instantly seen a funnel cloud. By the time we got into Selma, it was happening. We actually drove right through it. We got here within a couple minutes and started getting people out of their houses, started getting gas shut off, and it's just one of those things you don't expect it to happen, and when it happened, you just had to act really quick.
And right now, obviously, this neighborhood is just very torn up. Did you say you have some people still in their homes, but you're also trying to get some people off to the elementary school at some point?
Right, so we're using Selma Elementary right now as a kind of evacuation point to get people that have unsafe houses. We done got them out. We have a few people that's still in their houses. Their houses are safe, but it's not going to be livable beyond tonight. So once we have a meeting with AEP and discuss getting the roads cleared out, we're going to start getting the roads opened up so we can get down to those people and get those to the elementary as soon as possible.
And you said the Red Cross is also on their way too?
Red Cross is on their way to start assisting once we get the people to the elementary, start getting them out of the elementary to permanent homes for the evening.
And fortunately, you said the injuries you guys are hearing so far, minor injuries?
Yeah, very minor. Yep.
And I also want to bring attention to this. Chief was telling me a few moments ago, they are a volunteer fire department. Your entire crew out here are volunteers helping with this.
100%. Yep.
And you said that this is not something Selma deals with.
No. This is the first I've ever dealt with. I've been here for 26 years. I've never seen anything like it.
Anything else you want to share with the community right now is, of course, this is very early on in your recovery process, really.
Yeah. So anybody that's in town, if you see something, you need something, give Delaware County Dispatch a call. They'll get us to you as soon as we can, and we'll get it mitigated as quick as possible.
Chief, thank you very much for your time. I don't want to hold you up. I'm sure you guys are very busy, have a lot to do.
Yep.
We really appreciate it.
All right,
Stay safe. As you just heard there, right now they do have lots of people in these homes that they're eventually going to be trying to get to the elementary school, which I'm told is down this way just a little bit. Now, this is the east side of Selma where they say was hit the hardest from these storms. Meanwhile, other people around town who are currently in a condition that they're seeking shelter, they are urging those people to go to the elementary school. Let's just walk through this damage real fast. I mean, we are seeing this appears to be a part of the paneling from this home over here. The trees just absolutely torn down, branches all across this yard. One gentleman we spoke to a few moments ago said his garage was blown apart, basically, windows shattered. Of course, on the drive in, we saw debris across streets, and several of the people in the area have also told us that they've seen some hail throughout the storm. Right now, there are fire crews all across this street trying to get everything under control. As you heard Chief Reed say a moment ago, there were gas leaks reported early on. That is all under control now. Right now, power lines had been taken out. The chief tells me that the whole town is without power at this moment. Of course, this is very early on in their recovery process. The Red Cross will be on their way out here. Guys, I'll send it back to you for now as we continue to learn more about the damage out here in Selma.
We just received some pretty interesting information from the EMA there in Delaware County that we want to ask you about as well.
Yeah.
We understand that apparently their initial assessments show up to half of the structures in Selma have been damaged. Half of them?
So On our ride, it's been hard to see a lot of stuff just because it's been so dark. Occasionally, you know, with the lightning, you could make out a little bit. That's something I can check with the chief about. But this entire street, several of the homes definitely do have a lot of damage on their roofs, their windows, and then you're seeing trees down everywhere. Across 32, we saw some trees down, even highway signs blown over. I think Nate, our photographer, even mentioned he saw a highway sign literally blown up into a tree. So there's damage all across the town. But of course, the hardest hit is on the east side of Selma right now.
Now, in addition to some of the structural damage that you are now seeing for the first time, again, noting that it is dark, so it's difficult for both Michael and these teams to assess. Outside of that, we know that there have been minor injuries reported here in Selma. One person transported to the hospital, but Schoik has been out in Selma for us, out in Delaware County, where they have seen extreme impacts of this storm. We know 50% of buildings damaged out there, and right now you're speaking to someone who's already been directly impacted by this storm.
Well, Dan and Bierschel, as you mentioned, 50% of structures out here have been said to be damaged, and we're on the east side of Selma right now where there are trees down, paneling down, street signs down, and then we've even seen some chimneys torn apart from homes. Right now I'm with Cindy Cox, whose home was damaged, but Cindy, fortunately, no one was hurt, and you said that's the most important thing to you.
Yes, it very much is. We have two elderly neighbors that live on each side of us, and their homes were damaged, but we were able to go get them, bring them back to our house where they're safe. And as far as we know, we've checked with all the other neighbors down the street and everything. Everybody's okay, just doesn't have electricity. A lot of damage, but we can't tell how much until daylight.
Cindy, obviously this is very early on after this storm, but you've already sort of seen people pulling together in your community. I mean, you're an example of that. You're trying to help get your neighbors into your home.
Oh, absolutely. When my husband retired 4 years ago, we put in a generator that powers the whole house. And so some of the neighbors, we've got them in our house. I think we've got a house full right now, but that's okay. They're safe and, you know, out of the rain and the cold. And, you know, that's just how my husband and I are. We try to help everybody.
And I'm sure your neighbors are very appreciative of that.
Yes, they are.
Tell me a little bit about, give us a sort of look at the storm as it's coming in. What did you guys hear and see? In fact, you said at first you guys really didn't hear a whole lot.
My husband and I didn't hear any of the wind or anything, but our house, which is right behind me, it's 100 years old, and it's built with plaster and lath. And so the walls are real heavy and thick. And we were both sitting in our recliners watching TV. And the next thing we heard, we didn't hear the wind or anything, but we heard glass shattering all over our house where tree limbs were coming through our house and breaking glass and, you know, just everything flying around. But it came straight down through East Jackson, which we face East Jackson. And it started at 32 and just came straight down through here. So it was just, you know, I heard things hitting, and so when it stopped, that's when I got up and looked, and there's tree branches and limbs and everything everywhere.
I'm really glad you guys are okay, and you were able to get more people sheltered quickly, and fortunately you guys do have damage, but it's not more severe than it could have been. One last thing I wanted to chat with you about before we depart. You were talking about the next few days, you're going to see people out here you know, trying to help, but you may also be kind of encouraging people to get in touch with their insurance providers. What was that other tips and suggestions you had for people?
What people should do is in the morning contact their insurance agents and let them know what's happened. I'm sure they know because we're on the news. But if people come around to your house and want to talk to you about repairs and this and that, just let them know that you're letting your insurance company deal with all of this. If they say, well, let me give you a business card, okay, take their business card and just say, we'll get back with you. If somebody tells you they can do the work cheaper and this and that, if they don't have a business card, they're really not legit. And we really don't want people getting sucked in to maybe getting scammed or something like that. So I would suggest get a business card or, you know, write down their name and number and call them back, but don't make any decisions for the next couple of days.
Cindy, thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate it. Best of luck to you guys, and as your recovery continues. I know, as we were speaking before, you're going to have plenty of people coming together during this difficult time. And as I mentioned to you, you're clearly an example of that, already helping bring people together. So I hope everything, goes well, and I hope people hear that message that you just shared with them in the next few days.
Well, Selma's a very close-knit community, and we pull together and help each other. So that's what I'm most proud about living in Selma.
Absolutely. Thank you, Cindy.
Thank you.
Another thing I wanted to mention, we were speaking to the fire department a little earlier. That's entirely a volunteer fire department. They're out here. The chief told us a little earlier. Obviously, we've got these down power lines, so the whole town is without power right now, but we had also heard about gas leaks early on, and they tell us that has been taken care of, no longer a concern. Dan and Bierschel.
All right, a lot of people pulling together there tonight.
Such
Michael,
hope.
thank you so much. Yeah.
CBS 4's Michael Van Schoik joins us live from Selma now. Michael, what's the situation there?
Well, Bob, earlier this evening we heard that there were gas leaks. Good news for people living out here. The fire department says that has since been taken care of and is under control. Meanwhile, power is out all across town. Some folks we've talked to do have generators out here, but as you can imagine, power has been an issue because look at this. There are power lines literally all across Jackson Street here on the east side of Selma, just filling streets, mangled with all sorts of debris, metal, wood, all of this from homes. Even street signs in the middle of the roadway out here. Nate, my photographer here, check this out. This is a chimney from a home that you can imagine was just ripped off of a home during these storms. That's the kind of damage that lots of people are seeing out here. As you mentioned, 50% of structures reported to be damaged out here in Selma. Now, the fire chief, we spoke to him earlier this evening. He tells us that so far there have only been minor injuries reported, so that's good news. We've also talked to some folks living out here who say that inside their homes, they didn't really hear the storms coming through, but once it got over top of them, that's when they started hearing their windows rattling and shaking with hail hitting their windows. And one neighbor we spoke to, she even says that fortunately there wasn't too much damage to their home. They have a generator. They even started getting several other neighbors into their home. But as you can see down here, there are fire crews. This is entirely a volunteer fire department. They are right now assessing damage at these homes. We've also got utility crews out here assessing the damage of these poles, these wires, making sure that they can try to get this back together as quickly as they can. But of course, this is going to take a little bit of time and work to get together. Now, right now, the local school corporation says that classes have been canceled tomorrow. Meanwhile, the fire department tells me that they are trying to shelter folks at the elementary school, which is not far from where we are right now on Jackson Street. They're trying to get people who are seeking shelter into that elementary school. Meanwhile, neighbors like the ones we spoke to earlier say they are trying to house people, and the fire chief even tells me the Red Cross is on its way as well to make sure people are taken care of and getting the needs they have. Bob?
All right, Michael Van Schoik reporting from Selma in Delaware County. Again,
59's Michael Van Schoik is there tonight for us with the latest on that damage.
Well, firefighters in Selma right now are going door to door assessing damage that they've seen, making sure homeowners are okay. We spoke to the volunteer fire department earlier. They tell us, fortunately, so far, there have only been minor injuries reported. I want to take a look at some of the damage they've seen, though. We have large trees down all over this street and this neighborhood here on the east side on Jackson Street. We also see power lines mangled and filling the street, really mangled with all sorts of debris, wood right here from homes, also paneling from homes, and even a chimney over here. Nate, if we can take a look at that chimney, imagine that must have been pulled off of a home out here. And then there are even street signs in the middle of the street. Over here, you can even see the Jackson Street sign now sitting there in the roadway. And of course, these power lines are off right now because the fire chief tells us that the whole town is without power. There was also a reported gas leak earlier in the evening. The fire chief also tells me that's been taken care of at this time. Meanwhile, they are just going door to door, assessing the damage and also trying to get people who no longer have shelter to the elementary school, which is right down the road from here. This is, of course, very early on in the aftermath of this storms, very early on in their recovery process. We spoke to one homeowner here who told us a little bit about the damage she experienced. She tells us she's housing several people inside her home right now to make sure everyone that needs shelter is getting shelter. Guys, I'll send it back to you.